What's up, everyone? Welcome back to A Line in the Stars, and welcome to the 1701-C. Um, Fanhome is delayed and delayed and delayed. It seems that with the Enterprise D shipment, it seems to have switched to the beginning of the month, and I've been I've been really struggling. The Falcon build, what I originally criticized as being kind of janky is more of like a traditional model build where we're employing proper model building techniques. Whereas the Enterprise D is more of like, you're going to use a screwdriver and, you're going to be closely fitting machined pieces together. So that being said, my criticisms are kind of like they kind of shift back and forth between the two models. I like the quality of the Enterprise D, but I like the fact that the Millennium Falcon has more to do per stage. And like with the last package on the D, I just didn't have enough to do. There was just like two 25-minute videos, and that's cool. Like it works out, but I would like 3, 4 maybe, which would be nice. And so I'm thinking, like, what am I going to do on the off weeks when we don't have a package, and it's looking like it's going to be a couple weeks still before I do have a package. What am I going to do? And I don't want to do another ship in this slot. I think, well, another ship, if you get what I'm saying. I think I'd like to keep the Enterprise in this slot, and if we're not building the Fanhome 1701D, we're going to build some Enterprises. I start with the C. This is a Christmas gift. I am super excited about this one. We're going to go ahead and unpackage it and kind of talk about what we're going to do next. But yeah, I want to build some Enterprises. I got my eye on the B, the 1701B, the Excelsior class, after this one. We won't see this series all that often. If it winds up being where we have a month where, say for instance, we actually have enough to create like 3 or 4 packages, and then the next package comes and I get, like with the Falcon, I'm in a cycle now where I'm continuing able to have new content going out without any gaps. If I don't have, if we wind up in that point, then I'll go ahead and drop these episodes, on another day during the week, maybe replacing the NX-01 build series, for instance, when it finally finishes up. So I just really wanted to build an Enterprise in this slot, and I wanted to keep going with it. And, the C does not get a whole lot of love. It was in one episode. We don't see too many Ambassador classes out there. It's a beautiful design, and I am really excited to bring this one to you. Now, this is a step up in skill levels. So this is the first model that we're going to do where, there's a lot more pieces. It's a little bit more technical painting. I'm not quite sure what the focus is going to be for this model. Say the Havoc Marauder, for instance, the focus we're building with that model is with, putty work and getting our seams right and all of that. The NX-01 is just, can we build a model fast? And then I have other models coming up here soon where we're going to be focusing on different aspects of model building to kind of round out all of our skills. And I think it's time to go ahead and step up in skill level. We're going to take our time with this model. I'm not going to crash course through it. I am not going to just, in my off time, like film when I'm feeling like it. I'm going to do a dedicated build like I am with all of our main model series. It's going to be only on the time where I set aside to do it, and we're going to take our time with this model. It's a really nice quality 1 to 1400 scale. It is glued together, not snap. It is injected in clear plastic. It's kind of like a combination of like a Polar Lights and an AMT model. So we're able to light it. We're not going to light this one. Once again, we're not focusing on that just this far ahead or at this point in our skill levels. I am still very much in the process of learning how to use breadboards and thinking about how we would apply that to the model build series. So From AMT, we have the 1701-C. If you guys aren't familiar, it's from the episode Yesterday's Enterprise. I think it was a season 3 episode. Very, very, very high quality episode. It's got Shooter McGavin in it, Christopher McDonald, and yeah, it brings back Tasha Yar for the first time since her character's death. And it just, you know, the design for the C comes from, you know, the gold on the back of the observation lounge, the gold ship outline, and it kind of looks like an ambassador class. And when they were deciding to build, or when they were deciding to do the shooting model for the C, and they looked at that for reference, they kind of like created a whole new design and trying to take what we knew from the A, from the B, and what we already knew about the D, and try to figure out a way of like putting all of those pieces together and creating this just gorgeous ship design, one that I really wish Star Trek spent more time using. It does have a nice set of decals. We have a couple different ship options. On a personal note, I really, really, really would have loved to have had the Excalibur be one of the names of the ships that we can name this. I think it's going to have a couple different options. But the Excalibur, if you guys aren't familiar, it's from the New Frontier book series. Definitely beta canon stuff. But yeah, those are like... Those books are really, really good. It is a really well fleshed out crew using different, like it's Commander Shelby is the first officer, Dr. Solar is the chief medical officer, and there's a few other characters that were minor characters in the Next Generation that they brought into that book series, and they were all written by Peter David, who is just a fantastic Star Trek writer. So, I've talked enough. Let's go ahead and take a look at the box real fast. As you see, we got the front. The new Star Trek Universe logo is on the front. This model is from 2022, so it is pretty recent. Let's see here. It just kind of has a brief little overview of Yesterday's Enterprise, and it says here, while investigating an unusual radiation anomaly, the Enterprise has encountered what could almost be called a ghost from its own past. The Enterprise C, and that's a quote from Captain Picard, actually. And then here on the back, it is a 15-inch long model. It's 47 pieces. The decal set that we have for this is pretty cool. It's the Enterprise. We also have the option for the USS Yamaguchi, the NCC-26510, or you can also choose to use the battle damage decals, and I'm not quite sure what we're going to do for that one. I've got to have a think about that, but it's really cool that they have those battle damage decals. So, let's go ahead and open this box. I have been just like waiting, like, oh, I want to open this box now, but we got to have the right time to record, and, well, yeah. Really no excuse. Alright. I don't know why that was so difficult right there. Yeah, let's go ahead and pull back our plastic. Okay, now let's go ahead. Flip this over here. Pull this off. Oh, it's molded in white. Fascinating. Okay, cool. Real quick before we get into the box, here is the decal placements. It's kind of cool how AMT does their decal placements on their instructions. They're on the side of the box. Here are our color guides for individual pieces, and it's specifically talking about the nacelle colors. And then here is our top decal positioning, and then our port side colors as well, specifically talking about the colors of the ship. We're gonna do our own, like I recognize, like with the ambassador class, there's a lot of like blue gray in there, and so I went ahead and purchased a blue gray from what was it, Tamaya? Is it? No, it's Vallejo. I really like Vallejo for my spray paints. It doesn't require much thinner. It goes on really, really nice. And so, anyway, here is the saucer section, and It's got all of these tiny little panels here, and we're going to be doing a lot of that capillary effect on this. I am so looking forward to that. Okay. Here's our base, which is actually a pretty big one. This is the biggest base that in my model series so far, in all the model series so far that I've seen. And then, wow, okay. We got our clear pieces here. Oh, look at the Bussard collectors. Oh, and then the top of, or is this the deflector dish? Is that the deflector dish? I'm not quite sure. And then we have our warp field grills. Oh, this is the deflector dish, and then here's our Bussard collectors. And then we have our nacelles, the body, and some loose pieces down the bottom. Oh, how fascinating. Look at this decal sheet. Oh my goodness. This is a huge decal sheet. Oh, super exciting. I know a lot of this is just battle damage, but my work on the NX-01, you guys will see here soon. Like, I wound up really kind of falling in love with the decal process, and so I'm super excited about that. Let's go ahead and take a look at our instructions real fast and see what we're in for. Okay. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Once again, Star Trek models are not, like, super complicated. The complicated part is, oh, what that is, you have two different options for the deflector dish. It's more of a modern or the older school. Ooh, we have decisions ahead of us. Yeah, the models aren't super complicated, but what they are, however, is like really paint detail oriented, and that's what we're really going to be, I think, focusing on. So yeah, really pretty straightforward and simple. I think what we're going to do next, like first things first, we're going to wash our model. We completely always wash all of our pieces before we install them, do any paint work on them, whatever. We want to clean off all of the dirt. We want to clean off any of the dust or anything from the manufacturing process. And then we're going to go ahead and base coat everything, as we always do. And here in phase one, you know, it's unpackaging, it's base coat, and it's the plan. So, for the rest of this episode today, we are going to go ahead and just watch me paint for a little while. I'm going to go ahead and do our base coat. We're going to do the base coat in our light gray, the same color that we wound up base coating the NX-01 in. Obviously, you know, that's more of the old school. That's going to be the color that I use for any I would say anything at 1701D and before we will use for that color. Like, obviously, we're not going to be building a D model. We're building the D model from Fanhome. And that light gray that we use is pretty damn close. It's a little lighter, but I think it works for these old school ships. We also have the blue, the gray blue that's going to be part of it. And then these rings right here are actually going to be decals, which is actually kind of interesting. So, we're going to come up with a plan for our paint. We're going to come up with a plan for all of the rest for the next episode, and then we're going to start detail painting next week. But for the rest of this episode today, my friends, I'm going to go ahead and pop out my paint booth, as I like to call it. The cardboard box that I paint in that makes me feel funny in the head. It's actually got a fan on top, and yeah, you stick your head in there for a little while. It's a little special, so to say. So we're going to go ahead and throw on the first couple coats of paint, and at the very end, we'll kind of talk a little bit about how everything went with the painting process. This is a really, really white model, and I imagine that it's going to, I'm thinking, actually, now that I think about it, so I don't know if I should be doing a primer or not. I don't think so, and I think I definitely got enough of that color, so we're good. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to the painting, and we'll get some final thoughts at the very end. Enjoy some music. Alright, we are back, and I gotta say that painting this in the base coat plus the primer was arguably the hardest thing that I've done since starting this channel. And that includes like learning how to edit and upload and do all of the things. I really struggled. The decision to put primer on was a good one. I feel like the paint, I'm going to show you guys the paint here in a second. I feel like the paint went on really well. Once I was able to finally get the airbrush unclogged, basically just primer shouldn't go through an airbrush. It just, that's the way it is. The Vallejo primer itself, the Vallejo paint works great. Primer, when I was talking to the guy at the hobby shop, I'm like, oh, I was complaining about it, how my airbrush was all gummed up and all that jazz. And he's like, oh, did you use the black? And I'm like, no, I used the gray. And he goes, okay, that's not as bad as the black. Apparently, some of the Vallejo primers are really bad, and so going forward, if I ever have to prime, I'm just going to get a rattle can of the primer. I've watched, how to do that, and it's a very quick and easy process. It would have saved me so many headaches. Basically, just what wound up happening is the primer, it got into the airlines in the airbrush, and it just caked up, and I had to basically let it soak for a whole day in airbrush thinner just to get that stuff clear. Bought a whole airbrush cleaning kit and just nightmare. It was also during this model that I picked up the Army Painter, basically the combination flow improver and thinner for airbrushes, and it made all of the world of difference. Once I finally started using that, I was able to pre-mix my paint and get the ratios proper. It was very easy to measure. It was very easy to do all of the things, and I feel like the paint turned out really well. So it's been an adventure. It's been an adventure getting this process done. So let's go ahead and see what we've done so far and talk about what's next for this model. So, look at that. It's been a day or so since I've looked at it, and definitely not underneath the light here. So yeah, I did wind up separating my parts just because I wanted to do a very thorough job. I regretted that decision almost immediately. But yeah, there's our saucer. Get it up nice and close here. Yeah, the paint turned out really well. The primer plus the paint, though, wound up turning out a little darker gray than I was expecting, and it actually wound up turning out just fine. I really appreciate the way this looks. The paint is nice and consistent and smooth. There's no overspray now. There was some in the beginning. Definitely learned a lot. Painting bigger models is a challenge and something that I'm looking forward to doing again in the future. So we have our engineering section here, and this one took a little bit of work. Basically, getting around the neck without overspraying, getting around the front of the deflector dish area without overspraying. Just doing all of this without overspraying was a big challenge, but it turned out really well. Really pleased with the paint. The total count for everything, we had 4 coats of the primer on the outside of the model, 2 coats of primer on the inside of the model to help protect from light bleed or anything like that. It definitely helped with the overall, I guess you could say, flow of the model. The paint needed that background, the background color to really help even it out. There's the word we're trying to use. I did assemble one part. What is this? Oh, a little muck on there. I did assemble the struts for the nacelles. When I was painting it, it was kind of awkward, and so I decided to use the new glue that we had and put everything together. I did base coat the inside, or did primer the inside of these, but I just wanted to paint this as one unit, and I'm actually really pleased with that work. So I chose not to. This is basically what this paint looks like with one coat of the paint plus the primer. And this is like an auxiliary part. They would want us to cut off the back part. It's so that you can do the upgraded version of the Ambassador class, and I'm sticking with the Enterprise C. So, but yeah, you can see kind of the color. This is just primer, the 4 coats of primer plus the 1 first coat of the paint. I decided at that point we're not going to be doing that. And then we have our nacelles, and this is the nacelle set that we just saw painted. Is it? No, it's not. This one needs a little bit more work. So yeah, this one also needs a little bit of work around the edges. I was trying to avoid some overspray, so I still have a little bit of paint work left to do. But overall, you know, as we saw, the paint went on really nice. I was able to like let it sit for a while and wait for my paint to dry in between each coat, which was key. This model wound up turning out really good once I was able to finally get the paint flowing again. It was just, it was such a process. I've learned so much building this model just to get this far. So, as I said at the beginning of the video, and a week ago now from my perspective, you know, this model we're only going to see every so often. It's going to come in place when the Fanhome hasn't made their delivery on time, or I didn't have enough content, or what have you. I'm going to make sure, though, to at least get an episode of this out at least once a month or so, at minimum. And so, with that being said, however, I do want to talk about what we are going to be doing next. And that's going to be planning out and taping out our paint, or our paint lines, basically. And I will show a diagram in the next episode, but basically, you know, you have different rings of color around the outside, where you have like this gray blue, and then you have a lighter gray, and then you have the base gray. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting with the biggest colors first, which is going to be the light blue, or the gray blue, and we're going to be mapping out with some Scotch tape, and we're going to use Scotch tape, or I'm going to do some research. I hear Scotch tape works really well, but I'm not quite sure. So I do know that painter's tape doesn't really work well on this surface. So I'm going to do a little bit of research, but what we're going to do is mask off the area where we're going to paint in the next episode, and that's going to be for our gray blue, and we're going to go ahead and throw that paint on in the next episode. We are going to be doing that both on the top and the bottom of the saucer section, and we're only going to be focusing on the saucer section for paint for the next little while, because this is where the greatest amount of detail is. And with this model series, we are not going to be doing any sort of final assembly until we have spent the time working with each piece, getting everything fully put together, sanded, puttied, and painted properly. So this is going to be an interesting model build. It's going to take us a long time. I'm really looking forward to building this one. It already has been a headache, and which tells me that the end process, or the end result, is going to be something that I'm really going to enjoy. So, my friends, this is cool. Like, to hold the saucer section of the 1701-C, it's pretty cool. This is not, you know, a gigantic piece or whatever, but this is definitely a step up. Not a whole lot of parts in this model, right? But it is definitely a step up in the quality and the skill level that it's going to take to do a proper model, and I think I really want to spend a lot of time building this one, which we're going to do. So, if you guys have any questions, comments, tips, tricks, please leave them down below. If you'd like to support the channel, please like and subscribe. And my friends, until we see each other again, I hope you all have a wonderful day in this beautiful world, wherever you happen to be. And just remember to always live long and prosper.